I feel like I need to get this off my chest and maybe sharing my story will help someone else. My name is Jake and I've been married to my wife Sarah for 6 years. We met in college and I thought we were a perfect match. We had our moments, sure, every couple does, but I genuinely believed we were building a life together. That is, until everything came crashing down. The first signs of trouble were subtle. Sarah began to change, and if I'm being honest, I think I ignored the red flags because I didn't want to believe what I feared. She became distant, often glued to her phone, her schedule filled with late-night meetings for her racial health disparity elimination initiative. While it was admirable work, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. I tried to be supportive, encouraging her passion, but something deep inside gnawed at me. I remember one evening vividly. I had come home early from work, expecting to surprise her with dinner, but when I walked through the door, she was on the couch, face buried in her phone, a look of sheer panic flashing across her face when she saw me. She quickly switched apps and the moment felt off. I didn't say anything then, I brushed it off, telling myself I was just imagining things. However, over the next few weeks, her late nights became more frequent. She claimed it was due to project deadlines. I supported her, but after one particularly long week, I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. It felt wrong, but my gut was screaming at me. What I found was unexpected. Texts with a guy named Mark, her project partner. At first, it seemed innocent enough. They discussed work, of course, but as I scrolled, I found something that made my heart drop, a string of messages that were far too intimate for a working relationship. Can't wait to see you tonight, one read. Another text said, you're amazing, you make me feel alive. The blood rushed to my ears as I felt the room spin. Those words echoed in my mind and suddenly everything made sense. The late nights, the secretive behavior, it all pointed to one thing: she was cheating on me. I couldn't breathe. I confronted her that night after she came home. She walked in, smiling. Her hair tousled as if she had just come from a whirlwind adventure. I couldn't hold back anymore. Sarah, we need to talk. The smile faded and I could see the panic in her eyes again, like a deer caught in headlights. I showed her the messages and her demeanor shifted. She went from shocked to defensive in a split second. What is this? I demanded, my voice trembling with anger. Is this what you call working late, Sarah? She stammered out excuses. Jake, it's not what it looks like. We were just talking about the project. You know how intense it can be. Her voice pitched higher, desperation creeping in. I didn't want to hear her excuses, I wanted the truth. Just talking. This isn't just talking, Sarah, you've betrayed me. I watched her expression shift from panic to a cold, calculated demeanor. You're overreacting. You have no right to invade my privacy like this. Her tone was almost dismissive, as if my heartbreak was an inconvenience to her. The confrontation spiraled into a chaos of tears and accusations. I felt my anger bubbling over as I realized how much she had lied. I mean, how could someone who I loved and trusted be so cruel? I wanted to scream, to shake her, but I stood there, paralyzed by shock and betrayal. As the evening wore on, I finally found the strength to walk away. I needed space to process this. I could feel my heart breaking, but part of me was also furious. How could she do this to me? To us? It was a whirlwind of emotions, and I felt like I was losing my grip. The days that followed were a blur. I replayed that confrontation over and over, desperately trying to wrap my mind around the betrayal. I was angry, sad, confused. My whole world felt like it had been turned upside down. How could I move on from this? In the aftermath of that confrontation, I found myself drowning in a sea of emotions. Each day dragged on, and I couldn't escape the constant loop of betrayal playing in my head. Sarah tried to reach out, sending messages filled with remorse and apologies, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Each time I saw her name pop up on my phone, my stomach twisted with anger and hurt. I was a man caught in the crossfire of love and betrayal, and I didn't know how to navigate the aftermath. I spent a lot of time at my parents' house during those initial days. My mother welcomed me with open arms, sensing something was wrong even before I told her. She tried to comfort me, but I felt like I was in a fog. I couldn't focus on anything. I just stared at the walls, lost in thought. My father, usually the more stoic of the two, tried to talk to me about it, but I brushed him off. I wasn't ready to discuss what had happened. I needed to collect my thoughts and figure out what to do next. It was during one of those long, restless nights that I made a decision. I needed to confront Sarah again, but this time I was going to be prepared. I was done being the victim in this situation. I wanted answers, and more importantly, I wanted a plan. I spent hours jotting down my thoughts, laying out everything I wanted to say. I wanted to strip away the lies and find out what she really felt. When I finally mustered the courage to face her again, it was a week later. I returned home, uncertain but resolved. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Sarah, upon seeing me, looked like a deer caught in headlights again. She had clearly been crying, and it softened my heart a little, yet the anger simmered just below the surface. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady, "we need to have a real conversation and no more lies. I want to know what's going on between you and Mark." I could see her swallow hard, the guilt flashing across her face. "It's complicated, Jake. You don't understand," she started, but I cut her off. "Complicated? You've been having an affair, Sarah. How could it possibly be complicated?" My voice raised, but I was determined to keep my composure. "You need to stop deflecting. Just tell me what's going on." She hesitated, glancing away as if searching for the right words. "We were working late together. It was just what? Fun, exciting." "Because it sure doesn't look that way from where I'm standing," I interrupted, feeling the anger rush through me again. She took a deep breath, her composure crumbling. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Mark, he just understands me in ways you don't anymore. You've been so busy with work and I felt alone." Her excuses dripped with insincerity, but it was her next words that struck me like a slap. "I was going to tell you, Jake. I just didn't know how," she said, her voice quaking. "Tell me what? That you've been sleeping with another man. Spare me the details, Sarah." I was furious, but I also felt a deep well of sadness. I had poured so much of myself into our relationship, and here she was, admitting to something that felt unforgivable. I stood there trying to process it all. I felt like a spectator in my own life. "What do you want from me, Sarah? Do you want me to just accept this and move on?" "No, I want you to understand why it happened. I want us to fix this," she pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Fix this? Are you serious?" I scoffed, my heart racing. "You think we can just sweep this under the rug? You've shattered my trust." The emotional weight of the moment was suffocating. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do anything that would help release the pain, but it felt like I was trapped in this conversation. I turned and paced the room, trying to regain some sense of control over my swirling thoughts. "Jake, please, I love you. I made a mistake," she called after me, desperation thick in her voice. "Love," her words hung in the air, and I felt a bitter laugh bubbling up inside me. How could she say that? How could she love me while betraying me at the same time? I stopped and turned to face her, my resolve hardening. "You need to figure out what you want, Sarah, because right now I don't even recognize you. I need space to think." Her face fell, and for the first time I saw genuine fear. "No, Jake, don't leave me. I can change. I'll do better. Just give me a chance." I walked out, leaving her pleas echoing behind me. I felt cold, but there was also a surge of clarity. I wouldn't let her manipulate me with her tears and guilt. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. Reclaiming my life. I needed to decide what was next, and I would do it on my own terms. The days that followed felt like I was navigating a minefield. I had made my decision to take a step back from the relationship, but the reality of that choice hit harder than I expected. I moved into a spare bedroom, trying to carve out a space where I could think clearly. The silence was deafening, filled with the ghosts of our shared memories. I constantly replayed our conversations in my head, trying to dissect where it had all gone wrong. Sarah tried to reach out to me, but I kept my distance. She sent texts, left voicemails, and even attempted to talk to me in passing, but I was determined not to engage. I needed to sort through my feelings without her influence clouding my judgment. Each time she approached, I felt a mix of anger and pity, and I had to remind myself that I wasn't in a position to comfort her anymore. I had to focus on myself. My friends noticed my absence, and I finally broke down and confided in my best friend, Mark. He was supportive, urging me to prioritize my well-being. "You deserve better, man," he said, leaning back in his chair, brows furrowed. Don't let her manipulate you into feeling guilty for wanting to be happy. It felt liberating to talk to someone who understood. I told him everything, how Sarah had betrayed my trust, how I felt lost and hurt. As I recounted the moments leading up to my discovery, the weight on my shoulders seemed to lift a little. I wasn't alone in this. I had a friend who had my back. But even with my friends rallying around me, I couldn't shake the emotional turmoil. I spent long nights awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with thoughts of Sarah and Mark. What kind of connection could they have built in such a short time? Was there something I missed in our marriage that drove her to seek someone else? The questions haunted me, and I felt like I was grasping at shadows, trying to understand her actions. One day, curiosity got the better of me. I found myself scrolling through her social media, looking for answers. What I saw cut deeper than I had anticipated. Pictures of Sarah and Mark. Together, their smiles bright and carefree. They looked like they were living in a different world, one without me in it. A knot formed in my stomach, and I felt the anger flare up again. How could she post these images as if nothing was wrong? It was like a punch to the gut. That evening, I decided to confront her again. I was tired of lingering in this gray area. I wanted to be clear about what I would and wouldn't accept moving forward. I walked into the living room where she sat, the glow of the television illuminating her face. She looked up, surprise crossing her features. "Jake, you're back," she said, her voice laced with a mix of hope and desperation. "Let's talk," I said, my tone firm. "I saw your posts. How can you just flaunt your relationship with Mark like that?" Her expression shifted. I thought you'd be okay with it. I didn't realize it would hurt you so much. I'm trying to share my life with you. Share your life with me." I shook my head, frustration bubbling up. "You think that's how this works? You cheated on me. Sarah, you don't get to put up happy pictures while I'm sitting here wondering what the hell happened to us." She opened her mouth to respond, but I continued, "You need to be honest with yourself. Do you want to be with me, or do you want to pursue whatever this is with Mark? Because I can't stick around while you figure it out." "I made a mistake, Jake. I didn't mean for it to go this far," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "It's not just a mistake, it's a choice. You chose to lie to me, to betray my trust. That's not something that can just be swept under the rug." I could feel my voice rising, the pain spilling out. "I need to know if you want to fight for this or if you're ready to walk away." For a moment, silence hung between us, thick and heavy. I could see the struggle in her eyes. It was a battle between guilt and desire, and I wasn't sure which side would win. "I don't know, Jake. I don't know what I want anymore," she finally admitted, her voice breaking. That admission cut deeper than any betrayal. It was one thing to cheat. It was another to not even know if she wanted to fight for our marriage. It felt like the final nail in the coffin. "Then maybe you need to figure that out without me," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet resolute. As I turned to walk away, I realized I was finally standing up for myself. I felt a sense of clarity wash over me, sweeping away the fog of confusion I had been living in. I wouldn't let her indecision dictate my worth. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. There would be pain, healing, and possibly even confrontation with Mark. But I also felt a glimmer of hope that I could rebuild my life, with or without her. I would emerge stronger from this experience, and I was determined to find my way back to happiness, even if it meant letting go of the person I once loved. After that evening, things shifted dramatically. I felt a renewed sense of purpose as I focused on reclaiming my life and my identity. I spent my days working longer hours and my evenings immersing myself in hobbies I had neglected. I took up running, something I hadn't done in years, and it became my outlet. Every mile I covered felt like a step away from the pain and betrayal, and strangely, it helped clear my mind. During one of my runs, I bumped into an old friend, Lisa, who I hadn't seen in years. She was cheerful and full of energy, and our conversation flowed effortlessly. I found myself opening up about my situation, the betrayal, and my journey to find clarity. "You know, Jake, you deserve to be happy. Don't let her keep holding you back," she said, her expression sincere. It felt good to hear those words, and for the first time in weeks I felt a flicker of hope. I started spending more time with Lisa, not as a romantic interest but as a friend. She was a breath of fresh air, someone who reminded me of the joyful moments I had almost forgotten. While we laughed and reminisced about our college days, I began to feel like myself again. I realized that I didn't have to remain trapped in the past. I could move forward. But with every step I took toward healing, Sarah made her presence known, attempting to reach out. She would leave me messages, sometimes filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness, and other times she was genuinely frustrated with my silence. "I can't believe you're doing this, Jake. You're just going to shut me out." She texted one evening. I didn't respond. I felt like I was in a different world, one where I was regaining control. One day I returned home from work, feeling accomplished after a good day, only to find Sarah sitting on the couch waiting for me. The sight of her brought a flood of emotions, but I was determined to keep my composure. "Jake, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I crossed my arms, preparing myself for another round of excuses. "I thought we had already talked. You made your choice." "Please hear me out," she pleaded, her eyes wide with desperation. "I know I messed up. I've been trying to figure out what I want, and it's clear now that I want to be with you. I miss you." "You miss me?" I scoffed. "Is that why you were so quick to jump into a relationship with Mark? Is that why you thought posting pictures of you two was a good idea?" She looked down, guilt washing over her features. "I was confused, Jake. I thought I could have both. I thought I could have it all. But now I know that's not possible. I love you. I want to work on our marriage." The admission hit me hard. I was filled with conflicting feelings. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to believe that she had changed, but another voice in my head warned me not to let my guard down too soon. "Love isn't enough when there's betrayal involved, Sarah. It's going to take more than just words for me to trust you again." "I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes," she said, her determination clear. "I'll go to couples therapy. I'll do the work. Just give me another chance." I stood there, weighing her words, feeling the weight of the moment. Therapy seemed like a step in the right direction, but I wasn't ready to jump back into our life. "You have to understand, I can't just turn my feelings off. I need time, real time, and I need to see genuine effort on your part." "I will, I promise," she said, her voice steady, but I could see the fear creeping back into her eyes. "Just don't shut me out completely." "I'm not shutting you out, I'm protecting myself," I said, feeling my resolve harden. "You broke my trust, and it's going to take time to rebuild it. I'm not saying we can't work on things, but you need to show me you're serious." For the first time, I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, as if she finally grasped the gravity of what she had done. "Okay," she said softly. "I get it. I'll do better." As I walked away, I felt a mix of hope and caution. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be plenty of ups and downs, but for the first time in a while, I felt like I was taking control of my life. I resolved to give Sarah an opportunity to prove herself, but only if she was genuinely committed to healing our relationship. In the following weeks, Sarah did take steps toward rebuilding trust. She suggested couples therapy, and we started attending sessions. It was uncomfortable at first, sitting across from each other with a therapist mediating our conversations. But slowly, it opened up avenues for communication we had long since closed off. Each session uncovered layers of our relationship, both good and bad. I shared my feelings of betrayal, while Sarah delved into her reasons for her actions. The therapist helped us navigate our emotions, and for the first time, I felt like we were addressing the root causes of our issues rather than just the symptoms. Yet, as the therapy continued, my progress felt overshadowed by the ever-present specter of Mark. I thought often about their affair. I couldn't shake the images of them together from my mind. I felt the need to confront him. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I needed closure. I had to face the man who had played a role in tearing apart my life. That confrontation was inevitable, and I could feel the tension building inside me. As the days passed, I found myself wrestling with the decision to confront Mark. I wasn't a confrontational person, but I knew it was something I had to do for my peace of mind. I needed to see him face to face, to express the anger and hurt he had caused. It was time to take control of the situation, to reclaim my dignity. I just needed to figure out how I was going to do it. As I steeled myself for the confrontation with Mark, I planned everything meticulously. I needed to approach this not just as an emotional outburst, but as a way to reclaim my narrative. I wasn't going to let him think he could waltz into my life and disrupt everything I had built with Sarah. I was going to confront him and make it clear that I wouldn't be a passive victim of their choices. I discovered that Mark frequented a local coffee shop, a place where he and Sarah had spent time during their affair. The thought of facing him there made my stomach churn, but I knew I had to do it. The anticipation was nerve-wracking. I was packing in my apartment the night before, rehearsing what I would say. I felt like a gladiator preparing for battle, and I had to remind myself that I wasn't going to seek revenge. I just wanted closure. The next day I arrived at the coffee shop, my heart racing. I spotted Mark sitting at a table by the window scrolling through his phone. He looked relaxed, completely unaware of the storm about to unfold. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and approached him. "Mark," I said, my voice steady but firm. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face. "Jake, what are you doing here?" I folded my arms, trying to maintain an air of confidence. "We need to talk." He shifted in his seat, apprehension seeping into his expression. "About what?" "About you and Sarah, about the affair," I replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "You think you can just step in and disrupt my life without consequences?" Mark frowned, and I could see him calculating his response. "Look, man, I didn't mean for any of this to happen," he began, his tone defensive. "I never wanted to hurt you. Yet you did. You made a choice to pursue my wife. You knew she was married, and you went after her anyway." I felt anger bubbling up again, and I tried to keep it in check. "What did you think would happen? Did you think it wouldn't matter?" "Honestly, I didn't think it would go this far," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I thought it was just a fling. I didn't know it would hurt you like this." "Is that supposed to make it better?" I scoffed. "You took advantage of her vulnerability, and now I'm the one dealing with the wreckage. Do you even care what you've done?" He opened his mouth to respond, but then fell silent, seemingly at a loss for words. "Let me make this clear," I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to stay away from Sarah. She's trying to work on our relationship, and I won't tolerate you lurking around. So whatever connection you think you have, it ends here." He finally met my gaze, and there was a flicker of acknowledgement. "Okay, I get it. I'll back off. I don't want any more contact between you two." "No texts, no calls, nothing," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "She's trying to rebuild trust with me, and you're a part of the problem." "Understood," he replied, looking resigned. "I won't reach out again." I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It was done. I had confronted the man who had caused me so much pain, and while it didn't erase the hurt, it felt like a step toward reclaiming my life. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a surge of empowerment. I had taken control of my narrative, and it felt liberating. There was still a long way to go with Sarah, but at least I had set boundaries. I realized I was no longer the victim in this situation. I was choosing to take charge of my own happiness. When I returned home, Sarah was waiting for me. She could see the tension in my posture and the intensity in my eyes. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "Fine," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "We talked. He's not going to contact you again." Her face softened, and for a moment I could see the relief in her eyes. "Thank you for doing that. It means a lot to me," she said, stepping closer. I felt a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and an underlying sense of caution. "This doesn't change anything between us, Sarah. We still have a lot of work to do." "I know, and I'm committed to making things right," she replied earnestly. We decided to go to our therapy session together the next day. I sensed a shift in our dynamic, and I hoped that the confrontation with Mark would be a turning point. We talked openly about my feelings of betrayal and the challenges we were facing. Our therapist guided us through the session, helping us navigate the complexities of rebuilding trust. As the weeks passed, I noticed small changes in Sarah. She was more engaged, more present, and genuinely committed to working on our relationship. We developed better communication habits, and slowly, I began to feel the walls I had built around my heart start to crumble. I was still cautious, but I allowed myself to hope that we could find a way forward. However, with every step we took, the memory of what had happened lingered in the background. I often found myself questioning whether I could truly forgive her, and if our relationship could survive this betrayal. The path to healing felt like a fragile thread, and I was determined to tread carefully. I needed to ensure that I was not just moving forward out of habit but genuinely working toward a future that felt right. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of agency. I was taking charge of my own narrative, and I was ready to face whatever came next, with or without Sarah by my side. As the weeks turned into months, I navigated the delicate path of rebuilding my relationship with Sarah. Therapy had become a staple in our routine, and while it was far from easy, I could see the progress we were making. We were both learning to communicate more effectively, and I appreciated her willingness to confront the issues head-on. I remember one particular therapy session where we discussed the root causes of her infidelity. It was painful to revisit, but it felt necessary. Sarah opened up about feeling neglected and unfulfilled, not just in our relationship but in her life overall. She admitted she had often sought validation outside of our marriage as a way to fill that void. I listened intently, trying to understand her perspective, but it still stung. "I never meant to hurt you, Jake," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought I could find happiness in someone else, but all I've done is hurt the person I love most." Her sincerity struck a chord, and for the first time, I felt a glimpse of the girl I had fallen in love with. I could see the remorse etched across her face, and I realized that while the road to recovery was long and fraught with difficulty, there was a chance for us. I just had to decide if I was willing to continue this journey. After that session, we made a commitment to each other to communicate openly and honestly, to address any lingering issues as they arose. I started feeling a little lighter, a little more hopeful. There were still tough days, moments where the shadows of betrayal threatened to creep back in, but we tackled them together. One evening, while we were sitting together on the couch, I turned to Sarah and said, "I know we've been through hell, but I can see you're trying. I want to believe we can move past this." She nodded, her eyes brimming with sincerity. "I want that too, Jake. I've realized that I need to work on myself as much as I need to work on our relationship. I'm committed to us." In that moment, I felt a sense of unity. It wasn't a magical fix, but it was a step forward. We started spending more quality time together, going on dates, rediscovering the joy we had once shared. I began to feel the warmth of love slowly creeping back into my heart, though I knew it would take time to fully heal. But just as things were starting to feel stable, another challenge arose. I received a message from Mark. It was short and to the point, but it sent my heart racing. "I just wanted to check in. I hope you're doing okay." The old wounds reopened, and I felt a rush of anger. How dare he reach out after everything? I was furious but also confused. I didn't want to give him the power to disrupt what we were building, so I chose to ignore it. I didn't tell Sarah about the message. I didn't want to burden her with it. I convinced myself that I could handle it. However, as the days turned into a week, the message lingered in my mind. I discussed it with Mark during our next therapy session. "I feel like I'm being pulled back into a situation I don't want to revisit. I don't want to feel like his actions hold weight over my life anymore," I explained to my therapist. My therapist suggested we address this directly in our next session. We did, and it turned into a pivotal moment for both of us. I voiced my concerns about Mark's message, and Sarah listened intently. "I want you to know that I'm here for you," she said firmly. "You don't have to go through this alone. We're a team, and we'll face this together." Her support meant the world to me. It was the reassurance I needed to feel secure in our relationship. We discussed boundaries regarding Mark, and I decided to respond to him. I wrote a message that made it clear I wanted no further contact. "I appreciate your concern, but my focus is on my marriage. Please respect that." Sending that message felt liberating. I was taking control and setting boundaries, not just for myself but for us. I could feel the weight lifting as I chose to prioritize our relationship over the remnants of the past. In the months that followed, we continued to grow together. The journey wasn't linear. There were arguments, moments of doubt and tears. But there were also laughter, shared dreams, and new memories. Each small victory felt monumental, and slowly but surely I began to trust Sarah again. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "You know, I think we're going to be okay." She smiled, a mixture of relief and hope shining in her eyes. I really believe that too, Jake. I've learned so much about myself and what we need to do to make this work. As I took her hand, I realized that even though we had faced immense pain, we had also seen the strength of our love. It was a long way from where we started, but we were both willing to fight for each other. Through this experience, I learned the importance of communication, vulnerability, and the power of forgiveness. I understood that even in the wake of betrayal, healing was possible, but it required effort from both parties. I realized that love isn't just a feeling, it's a commitment, an active choice we make every single day. This journey taught me that while I couldn't erase the past, I could choose how to move forward. And so, I chose to embrace the future with hope, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together.